Well, and let's talk about that, because John Bolton will be in just a couple of weeks as the National Security Advisor. We know him well here at Fox News. He's a real hardliner when it comes to Iran and the Iran nuclear deal. That certainly should be very much in keeping with the position not only of the president, but also of Mike Pompeo, who's been a hardliner as CIA director, about the utility of that deal. What can you tell us about John Bolton when it comes to North Korea? And again, we're talking about all of this happening with a summit, and of course things can be delayed, but a summit that is supposed to take place, according to the president, sometime by the end of May.
Well, there's no greater hardliner on North Korea than John Bolton. We've known Ambassador Bolton for a long time. If you look at the Wall Street Journal, he wrote an op-ed recently called "The Legal Case for Striking North Korea First." So he has put out there the potential for a preemptive strike against North Korea. I've heard him say on many occasions that he does not think that talking to North Korea will work. It will not lead to denuclearization of the peninsula. John Bolton was involved in the 90s, where he was burned by the North Koreans in the past, and so he is not somebody who is going to trust that talks are going to lead to the denuclearization. Also, we have a very important date coming up in May in terms of the Iran deal. The president has indicated that he may let that deal lapse, and I certainly think that John Bolton would agree with him on that. You have a real daisy chain of changes within the national security roles surrounding the president, and it certainly is leaning more towards allowing the Iran deal to lapse and a hard line on North Korea. Yes.
Well, let me just pick up one more time with you on that, Jennifer. In terms of the hard line towards North Korea, is that going to be a hard line but still a summit, or is it such a hard line that Ambassador Bolton, and to some degree we're speculating here, might be trying to persuade the president not to sit down with Kim Jong-un for what was going to be an absolutely unprecedented meeting, the first time that any American president had ever met with a North Korean leader?
I think it would be hard for the president to back out of that meeting at this point. You heard the president of South Korea offer for it to be perhaps a trilateral meeting between the three countries, so the South Korean president would be there at the same time. But I certainly think that with John Bolton advising the president, it is unlikely that it will be a long diplomatic process that they would enter into. John Bolton is very suspicious of that kind of long process. He's seen how that is used as a stalling mechanism by groups such as North Korea. What is not clear to me is that if you let the Iran deal lapse, how do you turn to the North Koreans and negotiate any sort of settlement with them believing that the U.S. would in fact live up to an agreement? And that's going to be that's the biggest argument among nuclear experts as to how you go into the North Korea nuclear talks if you let the Iran deal lapse.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Why don't you stand by, and if you can come up with any more information, let us know. We'll bring you back in. Let's turn now to Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine, obviously you have great sources in the intelligence community. Did you get any sense from them? As I say, obviously there had been talk about McMaster out there. Had been talk about John Bolton coming in, but late last week or over the weekend, it seemed that was all going to be on hold for a while. Now suddenly it isn't.
Well, Sir Chris, I've seen John Bolton here at Fox News yesterday, and I think, in fact, earlier today, and he's, I want to emphasize, always been very discreet about any kind of discussions he may or may not be having about entering the White House. I agree with Jennifer when you look at this shift in the context of the other changes to the cabinet that the president has now put forward. On Iran, I think you've given that a good treatment. The odds of the U.S. pulling out of the deal have gone way up. Ambassador Bolton has never been a proponent of the deal that was struck under the Obama administration. If you look at the issue of Russia, Ambassador Bolton is seen as someone who is calling for a very aggressive policy with the Russians. In fact, just on his Twitter account in the last few days, he posted about how Vladimir Putin had been able to probably use kind of an information warfare campaign on his own people in order to ensure victory, and then he could take that, sort of sarcastically speaking, and apply it to the United States and other countries countries. So he's advocating a pretty aggressive position, or a more aggressive position with Russia. And then on China, he also was tweeting about the need for a more aggressive posture, which would, of course, be in line with the imposition of tariffs that the president did today. I want to say, though, sort of on a personal note, it does appear to me that he would have sort of a good sort of chemistry or connection with the president, especially on the issue of the special counsel and related discussions. I know from speaking to Ambassador Bolton on a number of occasions that he was deeply distressed by the unmasking controversy and the extent to which members of the Obama administration were unmasking individuals either directly in the Trump campaign or associated with the Trump campaign in the 2016 election. He said to me that in the years that he had that ability in the intelligence community, he only did it a handful of times, and he felt that it was beyond shocking that the former UN ambassador, it was alleged, had made a number of unmasking requests, upwards of 200 in the calendar year of 2016. And then also, as a final point, he was very distressed about the special counsel investigation in light of what he saw as a double standard with the handling of the Clinton email case under FBI Director James Comey. So a lot of agreement that he's going to be more aggressive, more hawkish. He was very discreet about any discussions, but certainly would have a lot of common ground with the president on those key issues, the special counsel, and then also the unmasking, which would be outside of his purview as the national security advisor. Chris.
Catherine, thanks so much.